everyone, thank you so much for joining me. It's Karen. I have got a couple of double Z-fold cards to share with you today. I have been having so much fun with these. There's a lot of space on them. So they're bigger actually than a slimline card. So if you like slimline cards, I feel like you might enjoy making this style of card. They stand up beautifully. So if somebody's going to show them off when they get them, then they can stand on the counter or the mantle just perfectly. So here's the first one. I thought it'd be easiest to show you it at the beginning. That is the double Z. That's the background, and then that other little panel piece that goes across is the other Z. And both of mine I've done the same way. They're both the landscape style. I have seen these done as a portrait, so they would be taller. But both of my cards are going to start with the same piece of cardstock, and I'm just going to show you here the mechanics of it. The cardstock, the card base is 4 1/4 by 11 inches. So that is your standard piece of 8 1/2 by 11, just cut in half lengthwise. And you're going to crease it at 5 1/2 inches. Just like you would for a normal card. And then you crease halfway back to the beginning. And that is at the 2 3/4 inch mark. So you fold it the same way you would for a card. Fold it in half, and then you fold this first flap back halfway so it lines up at the edges, at the left side edge, and that is your first Z. So everything, I was trying to show you there, I think everything, when it's closed, you see what's on the first flap and what's on the right hand side, and it's the same as an A2 size card. But when you open it up, that's when the magic happens, because that whole inside part is hidden. So you can have a lot of fun with this. You could make all kinds of fun scenes that, the recipient wouldn't expect to have happen. To make this second Z, this is another piece of cardstock that is 11 inches wide. You can make it as tall or as short as you want it to be. I've just cut a snowbank here. It's obviously very tall, so I would probably cut this down. But just to show you, it could be either way. So normally you would score at 8 1/4, or you flip it around like I did and score again at 2 3/4 inches, just to keep it easy math. Now you're going to fold this in reverse of what you did with the other one. So it's a mountain fold there and a valley fold on the far right. And so those are the opposite folds of that first piece. So when you put them together, you'll see they make that little box that goes in the middle, like that. And that's the double Z fold. So this is the first card I wanted to start with. Those little reindeer are from Gerda Steiner Designs Reindeer and a Tree stamp set, which I love. I have cut a background piece of 4 1/4 by 11 inch navy blue cardstock, and I splattered it pretty heavily with some Kiritaki Starry colors, metallic paints in gold and silver. And I'm scoring at 5 1/2 inches and 2 3/4 inches. And I'm just going to crease that, and then fold this first flap back again. Now I've also cut a snowbank to go on this, so I'm going to crease these in exactly the same way, because I'm going to adhere this to the base. So this is part of the base. I know it's confusing that I had a snowbank before and another snowbank now, but this goes with the base. So I'm scoring it in exactly the same way. And I just found it easier to glue these down rather than trying to use the tape runner. It gave me a little bit more wiggle room to fit them on. And I always started in the center there, because that's the hardest fold to get folded. It's got to bend in on itself. So I just put it in there and made sure it was well creased. Now I'm showing you there that I put a little piece of tape where the fold goes, and everything in the middle of that is not going to show. So I have made this house. Don't laugh too much. I am not an artist. The perspective is all wrong. But I wanted just a rooftop for Santa to be on with all these little reindeer. So I found it easier to do the chimney separate. And so I've just made a house. You actually don't even notice the house at the end. So don't worry too much if you're trying to draw one. It doesn't matter. And I'm just showing, I'm keeping these guys to the left of that blue tape. And I really was trying to avoid that crease, but I couldn't help it. So now I've got the house where I want it. I'm just going to figure out where to put the crease in it. I didn't want to mark it on the top of the roof because I've got some glitter on that. And so I'm marking it on the bottom. And I'll crease that. It's much easier to get these to go down if you've creased it ahead of time. So I would highly recommend creasing before you adhere anything. So I've glued it again. I'm just lining it up with the middle, pressing it all down, making sure it goes. And now I've got all my little reindeers. Honestly, these reindeer are so much fun. I've had no end of pleasure playing with these little stamps. So I'm just going to glue all of this down, making sure I've got the brick chimney in place and the Santa. And that one reindeer there on the left, you can see his little paw or his hoof, I guess, and his antlers went across. So I just took my bone folder and tried to make a little crease there before I fold this up. And I had to just work this a little bit to make sure it creased properly. And I also ended up having to glue his little hoof down. It sort of lifted with doing all of this. So I can remove that tape. And then I've added the other two reindeer. There's mayhem on the rooftop, I'm telling you. So I'm adding some Nuvo Moonstone Glimmer paste here. I wanted it to look like this little guy was slip sliding down the rooftop because Santa is standing on him. Honestly, I had too much fun with this. And I'm just putting some more of this along the rooftop. And this is some Nuvo, I think it's glitter accents. Yeah, glitter accents and fresh snowfall, which is also really fun to use. So now I'm going to do the double Z, the little banner that goes across. I know I wanted mine to be 2.5 inches tall for the die that I've got. But I would crease it normally on the right side, or you flip it over and crease it at 2 3/4 inches on the left, flip it back, just so you keep it all in order. And then the folds are in reverse of what you did with the base. Excuse me. So there you go. You're going to fold them backwards from each other. And definitely if you're going to do a die cut, I would recommend doing these creases first. And you can see I've been editing because I'm back to the beginning of now, but that's the way it's going to fit. And this is my new snowflake border die, so I was thrilled to use this. It's from Crafter's Companion, and it's called Joyful Snowflakes, but it's quite pretty. I was pretty happy that I could use it. And I'm just using, these are Sunny Studios. I've been using these for all my hilltops and snowbanks. It's their Woodland Borders die, and the trees I've used are from that as well. So my Nuvo shimmer pen is out, so I had this Spectrum Noir sparkle that I've just put on, but the shimmer pen, if you have it, would be perfect. And that is a little tree from or a house cabin from Memory Box. It's the cabin Snowglobe. I just wanted it to look like Santa had more houses to get to. I don't know if he's going to the way things are going on that rooftop. Now, to attach this second Z, I just glued it. I kind of eyeballed how high up to make the glue go. And I'm gluing just this first part. So on this first flap, that's the only part that gets glued. And as you can see, I've stamped and heat embossed my sentiment before I started attaching everything. And now I am gluing the back flap. And it will go down, just line up the edges and the corners. And I just pressed that down to make sure it was sealed pretty well. And then I've got Rudolph here, and I just drew a little sack for Santa and put a little ribbon or string on it. So Rudolph is down below the house. He's got all the presents. And he's not even on the rooftop, so good for Rudolph. So that's the card. Now, because it's that navy blue cardstock, I actually wanted to put another little flap on the back for writing my message on. So all I did was I just cut an extra little piece of cardstock with a flap. I think it's about 1/4 of an inch flap. I put double-sided adhesive on it, and I just lined it up with that fold line and adhered it to the back so that there was somewhere to write a message. And there's that card done. Lots and lots of fun. That is such a cute stamp set. So here's the second card. Now this is the MFT Holiday Penguins. And I'm borrowing this idea from Jennifer McGuire. She just recently did a video on using laminating pouches, and I have loved this idea. I've cut mine in half lengthwise, so it's 11 it'll be 11 inches. And I've just put that little strip of cardstock at the one end. Now I have this stencil. It's from Paper Rose Studio called Starry Night. And I thought, well, maybe I could try this with some perfect pearls. So I've put a little pixie spray on the back of my stencil so it would stay in place. And that seemed to be okay. It didn't seem to leave a mark. And I've got this piece of contact paper. I'm just covering up that right hand edge just so I don't make a mess over to the other side, because I actually wanted to use the whole 11 inches of this. So I'm just tapping on with Versamark ink, and there I've got Perfect Pearls in the white Perfect Pearls color and mint. Now I had no idea really how I was going to do this or even what it would look like. So I'm just randomly tapping on these different colors. And you could see I used way too much of this one to start, but it seemed to spread around. It worked out okay in the end. I think it was okay. It's never going to be perfect, I don't think. Little powder gets everywhere and it sticks to that laminating pouch, but it, for the most part, did okay. There's a bit of a blob there, and I just used a tissue and wiped that away, and it seemed to come off. And then I reapplied the stencil and did the other side. So I folded that up and I ran it through the laminator, and it comes out just like a piece of acetate. It's so fun. So I just cut off that strip, rounded the top corners, and it's at 11 inches now, which is perfect for my card base. I scored it at 5.5 inches, and again at 2 3/4 inches for the base. And it's not as easy to fold as paper, but you can see the fold line where I've creased it, and it does fairly well. So it's definitely doable. I did find it kept springing up, but Jennifer McGuire had a great idea, and that is to hold it closed and feed the corner through the laminator again after you've done it, after you've folded and creased. So that's what I ended up doing. I folded it up and ran that top left-hand corner through the laminator first, just on its own without a pouch or anything else, without a parchment paper. I just fed that right through, and it came out like this, which was pretty darn good. I think it was warm, and so now it didn't ever quite go back down, but it was good enough for what I was doing. And I've cut 2 pieces of this Snowfall. One for the front and one for the back, and that's just to sandwich in that acetate. So I'm scoring this at 5.5 and 2 3/4 inches, just like everything else. And I did that for the back piece as well. Made sure all the folds were going the right way, and sandwiched it in. I glued it all together, and it worked out really well. I think that's such a fun idea for the sky, to have that see-through sky. And I mean, Jennifer's stamped, so if you have a nice background stamp, that'd be great. So there I've cut another snowfall or snowbank that is my second Z fold, and I've stamped the sentiment, which is from that Holiday Penguin stamp set. And I kind of thought that was fun to have one on the inside, a second message on the inside. So for this card, I hadn't made a mock-up before I did this video, and I was sort of trying to figure out how I was going to do it. So I'm using some temporary adhesive here and just putting things together so the tree is there, and I wanted to make it so you don't see these penguins from the front. So I'm just using that temporary adhesive and playing around with it and moving them. I end up, well, you'll see at the end, I end up having one of them, well, actually this little guy. I'm showing you there I'm using glue, and it doesn't show through too badly on the back. So if you have the dies, it would be easy to die cut a second white one and just put that behind. I didn't have the dies, so, but you don't really notice the glue. And if the Copic marker bothered you, then I would say cut the white ones. Cut a white one to, put on the back to cover up the Copic marker. And here I'm gluing down that final far right flap, just lining it up with the corner and the edges. And just finishing gluing everything down. So that's the second card. It really was pretty fast. You do see that one little penguin through. Oh, and I was showing, if you cut another snowbank there, you could add a little flap and put your message there, or just right on the back. There's the guy that shows through. Oh well. So that's the second card done. That see-through element is really fun. I'm sure there's all kinds of things you could do with that. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I hope you guys are having a great day.